Oh, it's Monday. Terribly cold in the Northeast Monday morning. Great time for True Hoops. Little Zoom from quarantine show called Bring It In. David, this is not a fashion statement hat. To underscore that point, just before the show started, I ran downstairs to get higher performance socks to keep my attic feet warm during the course of this show because it is a nor'easter, sir. That's a storm where it's cold.
Yeah,
how are you?
I don't know what nor'easter. I know there are such things as nor'easters. I don't know what constitutes. I had a talk with someone from Iowa yesterday. He's like, "You mean just a blizzard?" I'm like, "Well, no, I think they would call it a blizzard if it was a blizzard. I think there's something to do with it coming from the east and the Atlantic Ocean, and it swirls around. And we know hurricanes. You know, you have nor'easters and hurricanes. I might add you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at the beach all weekend. It was glorious. I'm
I will tell you guys,
tell.
like I've been making fun of David / making fun / begging him to stop where he brags about Florida weather for 150 years. Judy has recently joined the game in a very aggressive way that's, I think, inspired a higher level of game from David, such that I think that we reached a pinnacle. I think it was Saturday where David called me and he said, "I hope you can hear me. My toes are just in the waves."
I said you can hear the waves behind us. Yes. Yeah. We were 5 feet from the surf. But in all fairness, as all of you know now that have children, they are extensions of you even when they leave. So as we speak, my son is in your nor'easter in Boston. He flew there yesterday. I'm tracking the weather. Of course, I'm tracking the weather. My son, I only have one son. He's there. And they're stuck there for a couple of days anyway because they didn't even play till Tuesday night. But I'm worried they're not going to be able to go to practice. I'm worried that he's not going to be able to fly home Tuesday night. And that's, they've already been gone since Friday. Yeah, so I'm more sensitive to your pain than I normally would be. And as soon as he gets back to Florida, I won't be caring anymore.
Wait, so let's get this straight. So I am in that storm.
Right.
But we're supposed to worry about you. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm worried about him. I'm fine. It's probably 60-something this week.
I heard the worry from Florida and not from New Jersey, and it felt a little weird to me. Yeah.
And a mutual friend of ours texted me this morning saying, "Hey, I'm coming to Tampa for the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll get together," which I'm not getting with anyone until COVID is over. But I said, just so you know, on Sunday for the game, it's going to be 80 degrees. So I think he was on the fence a little bit. Now he's sold. He's coming. He's from the Northeast too. Yeah. Okay.
It's probably good for our friendship if we talk about Bradley Beal now. So much. Okay. Can we watch this little this little Garrison Matthews steal, which is my favorite part of this whole play?
Yeah, I haven't seen this.
Oh, it's so good. I think Judy's going to show it to us here.
Yeah.
If the screen sharing works. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, okay, this is different. We can watch this one. Let's watch this one too. This is good. Okay, in this video, for those of you not watching, Bradley Beal is basically standing in an unathletic position as key moments of a game the Wizards ended up winning were unfolding. Oh, poor guy. He just looks unhappy.
He just was standing, and then they get a nice dunk to make it a game, and guys come to high five him off the bench. He barely moves his hand to slap five with them. And then he doesn't sit with the team. This is a game they won, by the way. He sits behind the bench when the team is all huddled up, which is weird to me. This is not who he's never been this guy before. He's the rare player, Henry, that is no maintenance off the court and an all-star on the court. I mean, obviously he's not alone in that, but there are some guys who are maintenance guys and are still amazing players. And that's why they're still in the league, because if you're high maintenance and you're not any good, is this the steal you're talking about? Oh yeah, this is the end of it.
Yeah.
And so they end up winning the game. They end up winning. I have a YouTube thing in there too, which shows the Beal 3.
What's this? That's a steal.
Are you kidding me?
Talk about a turn of events.
Yeah, here's Beal's 3 first.
Will pull up for 3.
Down 5 at this point. 8 seconds left.
35 for
Watch 24.
Matthews with a steal.
And then Joe Harris makes a terrible pass. And I forget who stole it for the Wizards. Is that Matthews?
Harrison Matthews.
Yeah, and then he threw it to Westbrook it
was like the worst inbounds pass of all time. But still.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if they had a timeout left. I haven't read about it. I just saw it. But you're better off getting a 5-second count and throw it to the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like that's the teaching point is I'd rather you throw it all the way down the court, right? But what you don't do is what he did. But our point is Bradley Beal. Our point is, here is a guy that's a no maintenance guy, McDonald's All-American, great player 1 year at Florida. He's been nothing but a pure pro for the Wizards until now. And so the video you first show that my buddy Doug Gottlieb put on is him just looking completely disinterested, right? During a course of the game that he ended up hitting the game winner. This is the leading scorer in the NBA, we should add, 35 points a game, 34 and something. And so you and I both have different thoughts. I think they merge. This is not rocket science here. They merge fine. Talk about what you see happening, because I think it's really brilliant.
Well, the first response to Doug Gottlieb's tweet that I saw was, "This is why I like college basketball better. They play harder."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God,
he doesn't understand.
Idiot. Okay, so okay. My first thought was Christy Oshmondon told us on this show, stress is stress, right? Whether you're exhausted or whether you're have trouble at home or whatever it is, like it affects you, your hormones secrete in the same way, and it makes it hard to perform your best, right? Let's just recap the Wizards, all right? January 6th, like a 15-minute walk, less from where they play, at the Capital One Center. The White House, the marchers go from the White House to the Capitol building and storm the Capitol. If you wanted to go as the crow flies, you could walk past the Capital One Center. And a lot of them are motivated by racism, right? But that happened. I don't know how Bradley Beal felt about that, but I can't imagine it was great, right? They were on the road in Philly that night. But those hotels, we saw like the video of the white supremacists in the hotel lobbies. That's right by where the Wizards play, right? So that happened. Then 1 week after that happened, the Wizards kicked off 13 straight days without playing a game, because I saw 1.6 of them tested positive for COVID. I don't know what the final number was, but a tremendous, like, if you weren't scared of the violent white supremacists trying to overthrow the government because they hate you so much, how about everybody on your team's giving you a fatal disease, right? That could be a little tad stressful, I would imagine, right? Okay, then they beat the Suns on January 11th, and but since January 6th, they've had 7 losses, 6 postponed games, and going into Saturday's game, 1 win. So, and there's Judy, do you mind showing the little Legion Hoops Twitter link where he looks stressed? Like, you could see that this was weighing on him mightily. Like, look at this. This is him.
Taking a seat, shaking his head.
That's stress, losing 88 to 104. And then it's made some news, but Bradley Beal's wife, Kamaya Adams Beal, who sometimes tweets amazing stuff, like them trying to do partner yoga stuff in the garage, which I super recommend. But for today's purposes, she said on January 27th on Twitter, I don't remember exactly what she said, but maybe you can share those. Something like, enough of sick of it. I think she wrote sick of it. And then the next day she wrote something similar. There you go, sick of it. And then she wrote this definition of insanity thing, like 100%. 100%. It's been very stressful to be Bradley Beal. And I would just cap that off with Russell Westbrook played this weekend after taking 16 days off. He's like the NBA's Iron Man, right? He didn't miss a single game, high school, college, most of his first decade in NBA. And he said yesterday that I just smartly wanted to take some time for myself, rest mentally, and obviously physically, blah, blah, blah. So I take it that the Wizards have had a terrible, terrible January. I don't want to psychoanalyze from afar, but that could contribute to some moments of Bradley Beal looking a little miffed at life, his teammates, everything.
I think there's, first of all, it's naive to think that they haven't contributed. To what degree, no one's ever going to know that. There's no test for that. My experience tells me it's significant. And you didn't even mention one thing. You mentioned the wife tweeting sick of it. But under that, I believe, I only saw it for a second, was a picture of him in a Lakers jersey. She's sick of that. And yes, I know I've dealt with this for 2 decades now. There it is. Here's Beal in a Lakers jersey with LeBron and AD. By the way, they'd be really good. She'd quickly be very happy if she was on that team. I'm not sure how that could happen, but that, do you want to talk about stress? I don't know that he has children. I'm guessing he does, but I don't know. But when you don't know where you're going to go, none of us understand what that feels like. We all have control over where we can be employed. He doesn't, right? He gets traded, he has a son. So yeah, he's got to pay. That's not easy to do. Now he's got a bunch of money. He can live in a bunch of places, but moving is stressful anyway, right? And so all of that is tied in. And then the last thing, which of course as a coach is the first thing I saw. Everything you saw is right, but it's just not fun playing with a bunch of guys who don't know what the fuck they're doing. You know what I mean? Like I love Denny Abdia. He is a rookie. This is all brand new for him. Rui Hachimura is a second-year player, doesn't know what he's doing yet. He's getting better. I don't know that it's fun to play for Scotty Brooks anymore. I see no indication that it's fun. And it's even if it was fun playing for him in theory, in practice, it's not fun to lose. That video you clicked on with him head in hands against the Rockets, that is a player at the edge. Now, I don't mean life's edge. I mean the edge business-wise. And they're thinking, what am I doing? Like you work, and we're going to get to this about Dame Lillard later, tirelessly to be at the best in the world. And you could argue third best, fourth best, fifth best. It's irrelevant. We're all trying to be the 8 millionth best at what we do, the 5 million. He's top 5 best in the world at what he does for his position. And he's doing it in a place that no one fucking cares what's happening.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get to do it for long. There's a little window. I told you this on the phone this morning. More than ever, I think players realize their mortality, right? The finality of being at the top. They know because they deal with veterans. He has played with good older players. He also saw firsthand John Wall, world's best athlete at the position after Russell Westbrook, his teammate now. And then a year later, not the same. Our bodies deteriorate way faster than our minds do at this sport, double or triple time, right? So all of that's being piled in. What we're really saying to our friend Tommy Shepard is, please trade this man.
Well, he doesn't have control over anything, right?
What's that?
Like, he doesn't have control over anything. He doesn't know where
right.
he's going to go to preschool, right? Yeah. He doesn't know, like, if he's going to get the ball. He doesn't know who his teammates are going to be. He doesn't know if he's going to play because of COVID. He doesn't know if he has COVID, and on, right? Like, there's a little bit of a, people always say like NBA players should be thankful and appreciative, and I guess so, right? And they tend to say that the billionaires who control the teams, they have bills and it's hard, or like swap. Like let Bradley Beal decide where Ted Leonsis is going to live and where his kids are going to go to school, right? Try it for a week, Ted Leonsis. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you say this because I texted our little troop chat this weekend. I rewatched Trading Places because we talked about it on Friday, and what gets missed. Well, I watched it when I first was 18 years old. In the incredible Eddie Murphy humor, Dan Aykroyd also is fantastic, and there's a bunch of great cameos. But that's really what has happened here is Dan Aykroyd got to live the life that many black men, especially, have been living for hundreds of years in this country, to include not even be able to take out money from your bank. Well, in the case of the real life, you couldn't even open the bank account. You couldn't get a mortgage, and on and on. Bradley Beal would love to have some control over, and he's doing his best. He is leading the league in scoring, and he's not just chucking the ball, right? And he did just make a gigantic three with someone in his face. That was an amazing shot. Westbrook was wide open. Beal was not.
Yeah.
When he made the three to put him down 2. I mean, and you noticed this a while ago. He was a terrible defensive player last year.
He was. So
my point to you has been, okay, this has been going on for a while. He knew last year was a lost cause. He almost got them into the fight for the 8th seed on just a terrible team. And I think he's like, where do you go? Where does he go to be the 3rd best player on a team that can win a championship? Does he go to be the best player on a team that's making the playoffs? He's all going through all that. And he has no control over any of it. It's piling on. And so just can we not wait till the last day for his sake? Teams that think about it from that point of view win in the longest term of all because they're player first, they're player centric, which our friend is. Tommy is player centric, and he can't make the deal happen. He's got a job to do. I understand that, but there's got to be some compromise to let Beal go, let him a chance to have a great year on a team that's actually good.
There's also a weird, just the strange power dynamics of the NBA. Like James Harden just did get the trade that he wanted
Yeah.
by having a fit.
A
Right?
long fit. Yeah.
He tried lots of things.
Yeah.
He tried
Right.
showing up late. He tried Instagram video himself like partying when he's supposed to be showing up. He tried, throwing a ball to a teammate in practice. But what finally worked was holding a press conference to say his teammates sucked. Right? Like Bradley Beal, I guess. What's the lesson here for Bradley Beal? He wants the trade to be done already. So what would you recommend, world? What should he be doing?
Yeah.
Like,
I hope that gave a little bit of joy, a little bit of Christmas.
Yeah.
It's fun to win a game, but all it does is, honestly, it just reminds you of how awful it is, because teams that win most nights, life is good. I talk to players all the time. You can hear it in their voice when things are working, when teams are on winning streaks. It's fun. When they're on long losing streaks, it's a nightmare, especially when you're amazing at something and can't really show off.
and for anyone who missed Friday's show, I think was the one where David, you were talking about how he would be great with the Jazz, right?
Well, what?
Beal and the Jazz, right? This is your that's your tip top destination for him.
I mean, the Jimmy Butler, Adebayo, Beal trio is better for me than I've talked to some people recently that don't love it as much. I have concerns about the rest of their roster. With Utah, again, it's all made up if they trade Donovan Mitchell. It's not easy to do because Mitchell's on an extension. There's issues there. I know they could get it done. Okay. But him with with their Jazz team and only really trading Donovan Mitchell and maybe some young players that would make sense for the Wizards. Yeah, I mean, they're the best team in the league right now. Would I favor them in the postseason as currently constructed? No. I do like the Lakers Clippers better. But they're the best team in the league. And it's a far cry from being one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league. And if you added Bradley Beal to that team, I guarantee you they won't be worse.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee. Now, they have to make sure Beal would want to sign the extension. Trading Donovan, who you've got locked in for 5 years plus the end of this year, and maybe only having Beal for a season more, that's a risk I think the Jazz should not take unless they know they can get him an extension at a full max or whatever. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of teams he'd help a lot. I'm reading about Zach LaVine to the Knicks. I don't know what sense that makes. I'm sure if they're willing to do that, they're looking at Beal too. But yeah, there's plenty of teams he'd be happy to be at compared to where he is. He'd just like to do it.
I think you're like, there's a Bradley Beal tweet. Judy, you mind showing this? Damian Lillard retweet Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And it seems like a small thing, and I guess it mostly is a small thing, but I think it could matter in the long run.
I saw this.
Okay, so Damian Lillard tweeted that, as someone that watches a lot of NBA games, not just highlights and box scores, it's obvious that so many people who speak on the game don't really watch. And then Bradley Beal retweeted that saying, "Box score fans, the worst," with a bunch of exclamation points. David, you could probably talk about this for 100 years. Go ahead.
I saw it. I almost commented. I tend not to do it when players are tweeting, but yeah, there's no question that they're right. What's interesting is a couple years ago, I suggested a Damian CJ switch. And as it turns out, CJ McCollum, I think he's like top 3 in scoring behind Beal. He's obviously out now. It's worked out just fine having CJ. I think Bradley's a better two-way player, but I don't know that he moves the needle all that much. But yeah, it's these players, man, especially, I mean, the fact that Damian, and we'll get to him in a second, I know that I love that he's watching a lot of games. I don't think you have to watch a lot of games if you're a serious NBA player. Some guys may need the escape a little bit, but most of them really love to play. I talked to one NBA player, longtime veteran player, who was in the bubble over the summer, and he was surprised at how few of the younger, this guy's in his 30s, how few of the younger guys went to go watch these games when they're just sitting in their hotel, right? Or during the day, weather in summer in Florida is fine and you're outside. But man, this guy liked to go watch basketball, and but a lot of guys don't. Damian does. I think it's pretty cool that he likes that, and yeah, most people are just, even their casual fan doesn't really get. That's why we're talking about this. What Beal's going through, but they're sensitive to it, right? And social media has opened that up to us a little bit.
Well, I'm a little so on some level, this is what they do for a living, and it's poorly understood, right? That's gotta be frustrating, right? So if you make a really difficult play and it doesn't make it into the box score, then you feel like nobody notices, right? You're working really hard and people then go on Twitter and tell you you're not good and you watch the game. I think that's what's probably driving this. Um, the problem is nobody watches games in the younger generation, right? Like literally the numbers are terrible. So the future of the game is going to be in highlights and box scores or something quick, right? I don't think we're going to have hundreds of millions of people around the world watching 2.5 hour games. So this frustration that Lillard has and Beal has, like, will be 10x with players in the future because they're like, you don't even know what we're doing.
So I don't disagree at all, but I would argue this. I don't know the younger fans ever really did watch 2.5 hour games. I think that they caught bits and pieces on their network TV because nothing else on. At least when I was growing up, that clearly was 4 stations for a long time. I think fantasy is going to change that. They're still not going to watch 2.5 hour games. They're going to watch a bunch of highlights and dunks, like you're saying. And they're not going to learn anything. But even when you're watching 2.5 hours, I like to say you can watch. I never watched any law shows. I love the law. I watched movies and read a ton of books. But there was a show, I guess, called Law and Order. So you could argue with people at home. So you had debate practice. You could watch Law and Order every week for years. But I'm sure Judy would say, what do you know about that job, that career, that profession? I've been watching tape for 2 hours already today. That's every day of my life and for decades now. And I'm an expert, but I'm not the only expert. And I have so much more to learn. I almost never stop. When you get to a point where you've watched that much, things keep opening up to you more and more. I watched Jokic all weekend, picked a good weekend to do it, by the way. And I'm blown away, absolutely blown away in a way I probably shouldn't be. He's been doing this for almost a calendar year now. He started this late, like early winter last year. And so, no one's ever going to really appreciate it because they're never going to spend the time. And quite frankly, Beal shouldn't worry about it. The advice I would give, and I have given players, is that is one place you got to stop. Like you can't worry what fans are thinking on that front. Focus on doing the best job you can, being a great teammate. When you come home, be a great husband, father. You can't control any of those people. Why would you bother? But that's part of his frustration is he can't even control his own team. And it's not fun playing with bad basketball players. That I mentioned that comment to you this morning. Imagine being this brilliant jazz musician playing with potentially other great musicians who've just never played jazz before in a group. And so it's just not fun. You can't be yourself fully because they don't know what the hell they're doing. They might learn one day. But what if you're told you only got about 3 more years of being this good? Well, we don't waste any more time with these knuckleheads, right? I want to get to the other experts and let me really play the best I can. And that's got to be driving them crazy. And then to finish the Scotty Brooks point, maybe they just are really freaking miserable. I mean, he is a guy that isn't exciting. He's a nice man. Players like him at first for sure. But with all these losses, you can be the funniest guy in the world and it won't be so fun.
Yeah, no, it's all real. I just think there's like in addition to everything you just said, there's one more thing, right? Which is unless you're a sociopath, you care what people think, period, right? So if you're the referee and you make a call and the whole stadium boos and then social media breaks down, they show on SportsCenter that you screwed it up, but you know the rule book and they don't, and you were right, like that's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so that happens once. What if that happens for a decade and you never have the conversation? You never cleared up and be like, assholes, you didn't do your homework. You were wrong all along, right? Like, or maybe even worse, maybe lots of your colleagues are screwing up and you're not. Maybe you're the one who's not gambling on the side or whatever the thing is that it makes you, you know what I mean?
Not wearing a mask in public, yeah.
What if you're the last honest referee and you're the one who's getting trashed because of something they just misunderstood, right? Like a sign of that would be you would go on Twitter in all caps and say, box score fans are the worst, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, right? So to me, I'm just saying like, this is a real frustration. Something's happening here. And it's one that if it is born of people not watching games and mouthing up on them, it's always been at some level, but it's about to go up because we're going to live on a planet where almost nobody watches whole games before too long, right? And like, that's new, right? When Magic Johnson made his little baby skyhook, everybody had been on their couch for 3 hours. they knew the whole game, right? They could talk about it, but that's not happening again, right? Like, because they're going to be on their phone. That people won't even see it when he does it. They're like, oh, what did he do? And then they'll see the replay, right? Like, it's going to be very frustrating to be like, you know, you're the kid in the musical who went to every single practice and then was like the fourth most famous kid, and you know the lead's all screwed up, and everyone's like, "Ah, he killed it! He hit the high note. We're done."
Yeah.
It's like there's no 11.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right, let's talk Damian.
Okay.
Oh, you want to do Westbrook? No, you already.
I want to do this Black Lives Matter thing really fast.
Okay, go ahead.
And Gerard, if you want to jump in here. Okay, this has been on my mind. So Black Lives Matter, I saw it was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. It was mentioned in The Guardian on Saturday. And then, of course, the first response I see on Twitter is someone saying, like, oh, great, a terrorist movement. This is totally Orwellian or whatever. This is honestly, there are a lot of different ways we could talk about this, and well, most of them are not helpful. But my thought was, I want advanced analytics. Like, I actually think this is an argument for like plus minus. I think we can say like X million people protested for X million hours, causing X, Y, and Z changes in the real world, right? Like who got elected, how money flows, what we know about the political system all happened with, like, you know, it was bad for a Target in Minnesota or whatever, right? Like there was some cost, but I think you actually want to see the bigger message to me is in for the way my brain works is like the numbers were ridiculously peaceful, right? Yeah. It was a lesson in peace. I think it's perfectly appropriate to be nominated for this award, but people will look at the highlight, kind of like we were talking about a second ago, the box score stats and say, you know, I'm like, oh, let's see how many people actually got their message across without being violent. It's a ridiculously high number. And I think it'd be helpful to use some analytics on that to make the case.
It's a brilliant way to look at it. I know that in addition to everything you said, and I think the more obvious things, I also think it served a purpose. I experienced it this weekend. It served a purpose to you and I live in a world that we have to address this. We have to immerse ourselves in this whole issue or we really are sociopaths. Like to not be aware of all this is happening and want to be involved in it is to disrespect our peers like Gerard, like and the many, many other friends we have. And so we have no choice. But there are many professions you don't have to really be into it as much as us. And I think BLM has helped push the right-minded people into pondering these things. And I was talking to my brother Mike this weekend, who's very successful, very wealthy radiologist. His wife is as well. They both got a med school after 2 years of college. These are brilliant people who've done very well in business and medicine and whatever. And this is funny, but it's also serious. He's like, you know, I don't understand how the country hasn't realized that a large segment of the population just feels like it should be white men rule, everyone else rules. And he didn't mean to say it that way. We started laughing, white men rule, everyone else rules. But that's exactly what his point was perfect. And I got emotional. This is my little brother. Like Michael hasn't always thought big on these things. He hasn't needed to. He has another world that he lives in. But you can't miss this. You can't miss this. When he and I have talked about the Tulsa massacre, and I blamed him. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be the smart one. How did you not know about this? Like, I know, it's unbelievable. How did we not learn about this? And so it's forced people who look like us, who had our upbringing, to talk about it in serious ways over weeks and months now. And yeah, that's going to lead hopefully to a more peaceful world. Absolutely, they're deserving. And so if data can help nail that thing in, let's do it. I don't know who you can have. Put someone on it, Henry.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't exist, but I do think like rate is the way to measure if a system is working, right? Like it's not incidences of it going badly. It's no, what's the rate? Like, so X people protested and, so you know what I'm saying? Okay, we should talk about, well, honestly, why do we talk about anything except Damian Lillard? Even for the rest of the year, I don't.
That's what you wanted to, when I called.
Yeah, that's all we need.
When I talked this morning, you're like, let's just talk about Lillard for 45 minutes. That's easy.
Watch it.
So let's show, do we have that video for Judy right away? Yeah.
A jump ball as they.
Here's the last 6 seconds down 2 against
immediately after he hits a 3, they're down 5. Oh, and now we're gonna have some optimum.
They love to give us this freaking commercials.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, you two drive me crazy.
Oh, so much to talk about here. I love everybody involved. Yep.
Sidestep 3 to win the game. Act like you've done it before. He does.
It's out of bounds.
Yeah, he steps sideways, creates space for himself. That is it. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is Terry Stotts was interviewed. The Athletic did this great article as we're watching it again, and he makes a comment about it's God given and it's innate, and whatever. You can talk more about what exactly he said. And your point, you said this to me off the air, that he's just talking because someone threw a microphone in his face. He knows none of this is by accident. Like this is, and I can verify how hard it is to make these kinds of shots when there's no pressure in a gym on a weekday, on a Tuesday, in July, whatever. He does this a lot. And this article in The Athletic talks about how he was a high-level scorer as a freshman. He couldn't really guard. He went to his coach, why am I not playing more? And his coach had all sorts of reasons as to why. And I get that. If you're a freshman, there's a senior who's a good player. I understand all of that. But when he asked Damian, his coach, can you make the NBA? Do you think you play in the NBA? And Damian said yes. And the coach laughed at him. This was freshman year of high school. Damian Lillard has got to be 30 now, right? And so think about how long, 16 years ago, whatever. And it still haunts him. It still drives him. He transferred.
We can read that little section.
Yeah, read it. Go ahead.
Then he asked Lillard if he really thought he was going to make the NBA. Lillard told him yes. I kid you not, on my son's life. He laughed in my face, bro, Lillard said. Lillard said he told Lippy thank you and then walked out of the office. That's intense. And he was never the same again. It just changed me, Lillard said. His brother Houston said he could see something flip in Damian. It changed him. Damian before that was lazy but talented. He played a lot, but he didn't do any of the extras, his brother said. He didn't have that laser focus we know now. But that experience, it 100% triggered him. It was the start of an obsession that still rages today. That experience kind of put me on edge about every little thing, Lillard said. After that, it just got more militant. I started to work way harder, and I got to the point where I knew I was working so hard that I was doing everything I needed to do, that I was expecting to be the best player. Anyway, it goes on.
Yeah. Well, I like at the end of that passage, he says, if someone did that to his 15-year-old son, he said, I might whoop his ass.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Hell yeah. It's the most helpless I've ever felt in my life. Bradley Beal, this is the most helpless he's ever felt as an adult that we know of. For me, it was when my son played for just a terrible man. A terrible man. I mean, and my son played 30 minutes a game. That wasn't the issue. And there's nothing I could do about it. In my sport, of all things, it was so disheartening. That's why Damian says he'd whip his ass, because you're dispiriting your child. And this happened to him. So I think, and I've said this before on this show, I'm reading this amazing book, The MVP Machine, where grit is the most important thing to have to be great, right? That's what we miss. Damian Lillard isn't good because of his skin color, his size, quickness. No, he's just outworked 5 billion people, minus 450, or probably in his case, 20, 15, 10. It is so hard. I say this to players all the time, Henry. Don't get bored making shots. I don't say don't get bored missing shots. Mm-hmm. Don't get bored making shots. That's what I have to say, because they make them all the time, and yet we're trying to get better. We're trying to figure stuff out, and it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to be able to stay locked in when you're having success. Human nature is to relax, right?
Yeah.
And so Damian is that militancy has made him who he is, and Portland's the better off for it, as are you.
There's so after Lillard's big shot against Paul George in the Thunder 2 years ago in the playoffs, he called in on a crappy cell phone connection, Damian did, into CJ McCollum's podcast. And they talked for an hour about how much they love each other and what Damian does to prepare to make those shots, right? And then this guy, Phil Beckner, comes up. Phil Beckner was an assistant coach on Damian's college team, has now come with him to the NBA. And their point on CJ and Dame both make the same point, which is Damian practices all of that. Same like when Ray Allen hit the big three to beat the Spurs in Game 6 of the finals. He'd practice falling down and standing up and drifting to the corner and making a three. These are things you practice, right? So Lillard, like pound dribble right from 35, that's a drill. Right? He's doing that. This thing that all these shots are things that he's worked really hard on. Those aren't hopers, right? Those aren't lucky. Those are shots that he can tell you his percentage from those spots because he's worked on it so much. So I'm like, oh, that's what's happening here, right? And this is happening all over the NBA. It's not just Damian Lillard, right? Like we actually saw twice on this show in highlights, twice a team came back from five, I think I'm right, 5 down in under 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Everybody hits threes like bananas now. Like it's amazing.
Right. The irony that you mentioned earlier, the comment you mentioned earlier that people aren't watching 2.5-hour games. The irony in that is by watching that full game, you'll get more out of it. It's almost like a movie where you're not sure what the ending is. That's supposed to be the beauty of sports. We don't know how it's going to end. And even when you're down 5 or 10 seconds left, I realize you're likely overwhelmingly so not to win, but you might. So that's why you watch it. You get much more joy watching it had you watched from the beginning and you saw they were down double digits and whatever, and you saw the missed shots late and you're like, oh, we're going to lose. Sometimes, and I don't know if you've done this, but people like me have, when you know the outcome because you watched it live and it's amazing, and you go back to watch a good portion of the game again to remember what it felt like. Oh, fuck, I know we're going to lose this. Oh, I know we're going to lose this. And then you won at the end. You're like, oh, my God, it's just so much more fun.
It is. Honestly, I think I would bet, I'm going to go into media theory here for a second, but like they bet hard, the power brokers of basketball, way above the player level, that we loved the game so much that we would sit through like a 20-second timeout that lasted 2 minutes, a 90-second timeout that lasted 3.5 minutes, and a game, a 48-minute game that lasts 2 hours and 45 minutes, and the rest is commercials, right? They were like, we got them. Like they're gonna watch all of this, and the answer now is no. Like it's not that good. Like if you guys had, if you took out half those ads, we would see what the ratings would be. But it might be significantly better, right? It might be that the problem is just the broadcast is just too flabby, right?
I would like. I think that your points are well taken. That they should be reconsidering everything, and I would tell you that I really like what I'm doing TrueHoop, and I like coaching. But I never considered this until after my kids went away, and I've never been interested in covering a game for TV because I feel like I'm just not part of the action at all. But I've thought about, you know what, I can make a game more fun than what these guys make.
Yeah,
and I may be wrong. It may be better off to have funny comedians calling the game. I want to help my sport.
Yeah,
right. I want, and especially in the best league in the world, we need to do a better job of packaging so that young people grow up like I did, because they have way more options now, including these really great 10-minute YouTube things that don't give you any of the story, just the cool plays. It's not the story though.
If you had all the low angle camera footage and the HD and the like I mean, it's really weird. Like it's now they have $100,000 cameras at every NBA game. I understand this year. It makes the phantom footage. Why are we watching stupid high angle Damian Lillard this tall on our screens? Like, why don't we have think about like how beautiful, where's that footage? Why don't we have that? Like the second that shot goes in, the whole world needs that shot, right? Like it's just, this is the most gorgeous thing that happened in sports for 24 hours, but we just see the ugly version with the pre-roll ad. Like that's not popular enough.
Right. We get the longer movie trailer version.
Yeah.
And how often is a trailer really depicting what the movie actually is? Go back and watch a trailer after you've seen a movie and you'll realize it's just trying to get you excited. But the story may feel often typically so differently. The other thing is they try to give you the mic'd up thing. There's probably better ways to do it because that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Right. How loud these practices, these games are. You can hear it more now because of there's no fans in there, although there'll probably be music and everything. It's the thing I most want to ask my players that I so rarely do, the guys that I know, because I see them talking. Like, how often are you watching a game? You see a guy make a three in front of the opponent's bench and they turn around. They're saying something.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know what I know I've been there many times, but there's typically fans there. So you have to really be close. I'm always curious what's going on. And I love asking who's talking the most shit. I asked my son now for college, and they just played a game against Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech's point guard is a New York City kid who doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And I didn't even ask my son. I almost feel like that's almost like locker room. Like you're allowed to own that for yourself, but I'm curious.
Or like, honestly, if this is the TV show, the Steve Kerr line where he's a new coach and he's like, sorry guys, you pay $10,000 for the seats, you gotta look at my ass all night. Like that's a good movie line, you know, like
That is funny.
yeah, you want all that stuff. Yeah, they could make it way better. I think honestly, and I think a giant reason why they don't have more inside the game stuff is that they're not confident about the referees. I think that like the more you have close video, big audio, I think like that play that we just watched, the Lillard thing right before. So Zach LaVine, we saw him storm out of the arena, right? Like he was super mad. Why was he mad? Well, he kind of got a little beat up on that jump ball, right? Like it wasn't maybe the best call ever. It was an exciting moment. As a Blazers fan, I loved it. But like, if you go watch just some camera angles where that was maybe a bad call, right? He kind of got fouled. Then
I actually think NBA refs are the best of any sport that I've ever seen. I used to watch football. I don't anymore. Maybe it's changed. I do watch some baseball in the World Series, the postseason. But yeah, they're far from perfect. I'm
not saying that I think the refs are bad. I'm saying that I
I
know
hear
the
you.
officials in charge of this. Not that I'm saying like the highest level executives, their sensitivity is ref criticism, right?
Yeah.
And they did have a Tim Downing scandal. They did have them fixing games. It is on video, right? Like they don't, and who knows what else? What else we don't know about, right? But like this is what they're
also worried about the cursing. They're worried about the cursing. They're worried about the cursing too.
I mean, they were like, I feel like the whole world has changed now, right?
I hope. I agree. I mean, I know my kids wouldn't be embarrassed hearing the F word or whatever. But I think that's part of it. And I don't think these players are always cursing either. There's lots of really cool things going on there. All right. I want to talk about something I won't say I was very wrong about, but I was certainly wrong about. I had concerns before this season about the Lakers defense, more about their identity. Marc Gasol was an amazing defender last year. Zach Lowe depicted it as this. He wrote and said he didn't know which Raptors player to put on the All-NBA defensive team because there were so many good ones. And he said, but most of the scouts I talked to said pick Gasol. Like he was just that much better. So I knew, like they're not adding some kind of terrible, they're not adding Aaron Baines. Okay, that was the concern people have with the Raptors. But what I think, they're number one in defense right now. And I think what's happening is their backcourt are fucking pit bulls. Dennis Schroeder, who played really well for Oklahoma City last year, is at another level defensively. Alex Caruso is blanketing people. Judy, if we can play the amazing Lakers deep in the backcourt clip. This was to win the game yesterday. They had just taken a 1-point lead. Kemba strips Anthony Davis, and Caruso races back with purpose, almost gets a steal. Now watch Schroeder close out Kemba, cut off the jumper, cut off the lane for the layup, and then make that. That was a tough shot. Doesn't mean he couldn't make it, but he didn't get a layup. He tried to, and that is not easy to guard Kemba Walker to take away the shot and then the drive and then contest again. These guys are guarding. I think the Clippers might be a little bit better if they played a 7-game series today. I don't know if that I'm right. It's very close, but I love a backcourt like this. It doesn't match up great with the Clippers when you think about their best scores are 6'9" and 6'10" or whatever, 6'7" and 6'10", but it doesn't hurt. Like they're building, they've reformed that identity. Frank Vogel, well done, my man. Like you have maintained, we know what LeBron used to do in Cleveland, right? Get to the finals and then cool it, chill it till playoffs again. They're number one in defense right now. Come on now. That says something about LeBron and AD and all the players, but it says something about their franchise and their head coach for sure.
It's amazing how they did so much wrong in like figuring out who's going to run that team at that time, and like turned out with like a really perfect coach for them.
He's really, I gotta say, I think he's done an expert job. We knew when he was in Indiana, he built that identity, and I think people underestimated his ability to do that on a LeBron team. But I think he found LeBron at the perfect time. I really do. LeBron right now is all about chasing those rings, right? And I don't know if they'll get there this year. We have a long way to go, and there's some really good teams in the West, not just mentioned in the East. But yeah, they're really guarding. On the other hand, this is a perfect segue, not that I meant it as such. Who isn't playing defense at all? The team in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right? The team in Brooklyn right now is playing offense better than anyone's ever played it in NBA history in terms of points per possession. And they're defending worse than any team's ever done in the history of basketball. Literally. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
So, so the Bradley Beal 3 came at the expense of the Brooklyn Nets, right? And then, of course, the Joe Harris mistake, and they make the other 3 with Westbrook. But so what, Henry, and this is, let's get Gerard in if he's free. He's watching these games more so than all of us. And they're such an intriguing team because their offense is so incredible. And yet here we are. So do they trade Kyrie? To me, I have a hard time believing they will. Steve Nash has no experience with being a top 5 defensive team. Neither does Mike D'Antoni, right? And by the way, Houston, since the trade of Harden, let's not forget, number 1 in defense since the trade, right? Number 1. Okay, these are not accidental, coincidental things. Gerard, what do you think, buddy?
Hello. I mean, I definitely didn't want to talk about Brooklyn. There were so many exciting things you talked about at the top of the show that were way more interesting than this.
We can do that. We can do that.
Oh, yeah. I don't mean to. Yeah, I'm not pigeonholing you being Nets guy.
No, it's fine.
They're
Look,
interesting.
I mean, really quick, 30 seconds on them. What is there that needs to be said? They don't defend, period. End of discussion, right? Like, you can score all the points you want, but if you can't string together stops consistently, you're not going to win when it matters the most, right? And when you trade your depth and your potential defense just to, and it's not that Harden isn't great. He's elite. One of the 5 probably greatest offensive players I've ever seen of all time.
Yeah.
But there's a tax you pay for that. Well, your tax is now no depth, no defense. So you literally better score 200 points a night because you're not stopping anybody.
Or at least 148.
It's just, and the thing that's frustrating, right, is that if you are a Nets fan, it isn't like the profile isn't there for those guys to defend, right? It's there. They're just not. So that's that.
That when Ray Allen joined the Celtics, it was like the pinnacle of like he had been a very ineffective and advanced pass defender in Seattle, and then a very productive one in Boston, and that was an opening for David Thorpe to say it's about the system. I'm a Blazers fan where they have motivated players who play hard, who want to win, who are terrible at defense, right? The system seems not to be working. It's a lot like the Nets. I wonder if maybe it's just not the right philosophy, right? Do you see that they're just unmotivated defensive players, or do you think they're players who just don't have the right system?
It's a little bit of both, right? To Coach's point, D'Antoni and Nash have never been part of or people in charge of top 10 or top half defenses, right? That's one. Durant, Jeff Green, DeAndre Jordan, although DeAndre Jordan has physical limitations, right? All of them willing and capable defenders. Harden, when in the post, very willing and very effective. Kyrie and James at the point of attack, however, no.
Kyrie said that. Didn't Kyrie comment about his defense?
Last night on the Zoom conference, he said, I couldn't guard a stick, which, yes, 100% true. At the point, I mean, Coach, for dribble penetration, if you can't stop that, well, why are you even playing the game? Like, just go ahead and be like, all right, lay up and just get the ball back. And that's where they're not having the forces at the point of attack. If you cannot stop that, you literally have no chance because now everyone behind you is scrambling, trying to make up a dribble penetration. And if you are a terrible team in the NBA, play the Nets. You will have your best offensive game ever when you play them.
That's the brochure.
Yeah. Cleveland, whoever, every time that you play the Nets, guys have career highs, teams are outstanding. It's because they know you ain't going to get any resistance from these guys. So
all that stress we're talking about, like the Capitol riot.
Yeah, no, play the Nets.
Hey, come on in. You're going to love it.
Look at the guy that we love, Lloyd Pierce. The Hawks with Trae Young at point. Okay, very limited defender.
Yes.
Even if he wants to be a great defender, he's got a lot of limitations. They're top 10 in defense.
Right.
On dunks and threes, they're top 10. That's coaching. That's getting guys to value possessions, executing the game plan. Think about the game plan, ponder it, study it, know it, and then execute it, and then adjust on the fly, which you have to do in games routinely, like now consistently over 20 games, whatever. That's coaching. That's what Nate McMillan did in Indiana. I was talking to an executive the other day. The way the Pacers guard the balls now, even, it started with Nate McMillan saying to his team, yes, we're lacking maybe speed, whatever, but we can fucking guard you at the point of attack with purpose and aggressiveness and make it hard on you, make you uncomfortable. There's value to that. There's lots of ways to play defense, all right? That's one way to do it. The Grizzlies, who've won 6 in a row, don't do a lot of things well defensively. They lead the league in steals. Right? They built an identity around that. They can adjust and evolve. The Nets right now, I think they just feel like still look at our talent. It's like having a necklace with 3 of the biggest fucking jewels of all time. How can we not have a beautiful necklace? Look at the 3 gigantic jewels. But it's not a necklace. Because the necklace is each individual jewel is on its own. The design may still look bad. Right now, the design looks bad. Right? They've got these jewels. The design looks bad. And I don't know that they have the right person. I think they can get the right person on the coaching side. You can always still hire a coach if you want to. Maybe there's some of those staff that can do it. And I think they know. At some point, the players all have to realize, what are we doing? Like, we aren't going to get there. We can't just flip that switch. There is no switch.
No switch.
No, you think there is. There isn't. It's a myth.
No switch.
Or there's a switch. There's no power connected to it. It's just sitting there, right? Flip, flip, flip all you want. No, you got to fucking grind it, man. And they all know how to do it, to Rod's point. Durant knows how to do it. Jeff Green knows how to do it. DeAndre Jordan knows how to do it. How well they can do it's a different story. But knowing that they can do it is step one. But now start doing it some. Make it matter all the time. Durant's going to get pissed pretty soon.
Well, he got close to last night without like saying it. He was like, at some point, you got to just guard your man one-on-one. And sometimes and that was really about Kyrie, right? Who again said I couldn't guard a stick. At some point, because Kyrie's thing, if he gets scored on, his idea is, all right, I'm going to go back and score on you. Okay, fine. But how about you also have the same energy? I'm going to make it really hard for you to score on me again. Try that. Let's see how that works for a little while.
That's how you phrase it, Gerard. You're exactly right. That's literally what I say to players. If they're matched up with someone I think is much, much better than them, because they're better than everybody, the best players in the world, I literally say that line, make it hard on them. Make them want to not have to go against you. I've advised, if you're going up against someone like a Jokic, who I'm going to write about this week, he brings the ball up like he's a point guard. And I was watching the Jazz play yesterday, and they're backing off him. No, fucking harass him full court. He doesn't ever sees that. That's how I used to tell people to guard Dirk. If he's going to bring it up, which didn't happen a lot, guard him full court as if he's a point guard and hound him. Make them uncomfortable. Get under their chin. Don't foul. Get under the chin. There's things you can do, and the Nets need to do it. And I know I've talked to NBA coaches who love when they see a player picking up full court, like in the G League or whatever. Like, oh, I love that energy. But then they get them to the NBA and they don't do it. Make them do it. You can hold them accountable. Steve Nash can hold them accountable.
Yeah. David, think about the workload of the Alex Caruso Dennis Schroeder clip you showed us, right? Like, I think we'll find that like Steve Nash didn't do that. And then they would say, they actually told him to rest. It's not Steve's fault. Like, he's a player, right? Because he has to do so much with the ball. It's like, okay, so Steve won't do it. Now he has a team with 3 Steve Nashes.
Right.
Nobody's doing it. Like I think what we're going to find, now we're used to this in the NBA. Like James Harden is used to not having to go quite that hard at all times on D, right? And Kevin Durant's used to that. And Kyrie Irving's very used to that. I think that what we're going to find, and I think I said this before they had this roster together, that like, it's just going to be a little better if you can put 2 of those stars on the court with Alex Caruso, or someone who does have like youth and mindless energy to just go bananas hard on the defensive end, because there are places to be on the court, and people who are tired from what they did at the other end aren't ideal for that job. I think 3 of them is just 3 like alpha dog scorers. A, can't all alpha dogs score at the same time, but B, are not likely to be part of a great defense.
Well, I want to finish this, and then Gerard has some things to talk about from the beginning of our show. What Caruso did at the end of that game, I really think James Harden would have too, had he been back there, make a play. Caruso's doing that all the time.
That's the point.
Okay, that's the point. Exactly. And most players are. The person who tweeted about the college game, he's not wrong in theory, if it was a guy that said it, that college guys run around. They just tend to run around like chickens without heads. Okay, they're just running around with no purpose. Most NBA players have purpose. So when it looks like they're not going full speed, it's because they know there's just no reason to there. I'm going to be smart. I don't want to foul. Right? There's too many fouls in college. That's why referees let them play more, because they blow their whistle 89 times a half if they called every foul that really was happening in college. Trust me, these fuckers are fouling everyone all the damn time. Right? The pros are much smarter about it. Caruso and most of these guys, it's just another level of effort all the time. And the Nets need to maybe find some resolve. All right, so Gerard, what do you want to talk about from the Beal thing you want to talk about?
Finishing on that point, though, that's why the Lakers are good, right? Because they figured, okay, AD and LeBron, we go with 2 stars, and we got a bunch of Caruso and Dennis Schroeders. And even though Jason Tatum is going to score on me, I'm going to make him be really annoyed that he has to score him because the Nets don't do that. Okay. To your point about college, I kind of wanted to. There's this whole like sort of I feel like cognitive dissonance that fans have when they watch sports. And it's this thing where it's a game that, in theory, we've all played at some level, like when we were kids in our backyard, or the park, whatever. And because it's that thing, you in your mind think it's easier than it actually is. Like, and we all know this because, and Coach, you know this better than any of us, NBA basketball is fucking hard as shit. Okay? Like, and that point that you made about it looking like, oh, they're not, they're going hard. And like my favorite person to like hate on the internet is, I love college basketball and I hate the NBA, that dude. Because to his eyeballs, college guys are working harder. I'm like, no, they're just not as skilled. So it looks like they're working harder. They're really not. Or it looks like they're better, but they just get to run around. To your point, Coach, chickens with their head cut off. They're fouling. They're not doing.
No idea what
NBA guys, they're like, yeah, that dude, it's not going to happen. I'm not expending energy right here. And it's a larger point about, because typically it's a profile that someone fits when they say, I love college and I hate the NBA. Right, and you can all guess what that profile is.
Oh yeah, we know.
There's a larger point there about valuing the Black body, but not valuing the Black mind, right? And it's this idea of, oh, well, you're just 7 feet tall and you fucking just show up and you're good. And it's like, you know how many over 6'5" dudes there are out there in the streets that are nowhere near the NBA? It's not just about size and skill and like natural ability. You have to fucking work your ass off.
Right. Rudy Gobert is a MVP candidate if the Jazz finish as the #1 seed. I watched him as a rookie. Now, I loved his long-term projection. I wrote some really smart things, it turns out, about it. But holy cow, did he have to work hard to get there. He still has work to go. But this guy couldn't catch anything.
Well,
he couldn't even run.
There's a fully racist trope here, right? Which is
for sure,
this idea that like I'm alarmed at how much response there is to like J.R. Smith was spotted in a nightclub. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like people are like, oh, you know, one guy stayed up late, right? No, it's like there's like it goes bananas with like, of course, and like, and it gives this idea that like everyone's high as a fucking kite and just showing up and a little basketball. And like, look, some Michael Jordan types can handle some partying in the season, right? Mm-hmm. He was one of the few, right? But like this NBA now, like I would say this: you're a hardworking college student. Like, okay, just come do it against these guys.
Yeah,
torch them, right? If you said it's so easy,
it's so easy.
Why is it so hard?
I root for one team on this planet right now, my son's team, and you would not want to be in my house during a game, okay? And my point is, I want them to do well. Like you would think I'm being excited about it. And they're one of the best teams in the country. They didn't play well Saturday. They had some pretty devastating injury during the game. But and all I do is yell at the TV. It's not fun for me at all. I really hate it. And they're fantastic for a college team. I can watch a pro game, and I always have a rooting interest to some degree. If I'm mostly, it's going to be like the story. Like I wanted Jokic to play great yesterday because before the game, I texted Henry, "Hey, I'm going to focus on Jokic. I've watched tape for 2 hours this morning.
Worked out. Good call.
He's playing the best team in the league. This is perfect for me to write about Jokic." And he scores 22 in the first quarter. Like, come on. But I don't ever get up. What are you doing? I say it once in a while. In a college game, all I scream is, "Oh my God, we're the worst team in the world." I say that 1,000 times a day because there's dumb play after dumb play because they're kids. They're running around. There's no point to what they're doing. So to finish the racist trope
worst
idea.
Team in the world.
Yeah. People don't like that these incredibly lazy Black people, as they see it, who are so talented, are getting paid also.
Sure.
That big salary. If they weren't making any money, like the college kids aren't making any money, they'd feel differently. It's that they're making all this.
That's the other part. Wait, did you say the college kids aren't making any money? Like, interesting assertion, sir.
that profile person loves college because the athletes are broke. That's why they love it. Keep them broke and keep them entertaining me for my own purposes. It's
yeah. Do you love the college coaches too? Because they're broke. Oh, that doesn't apply like that. No.
It doesn't apply to them. They're the smart guys. They're the ones that keep it all running together. And oh my God.
Someone has to organize it so beautifully. All right. All right. Dangerous territory. All right. Looks like it's time. Legal. I hear you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you, David. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Be safe, everyone.